President Biden signed the $280 billion CHIPS and Science Act into law today.
That's right. It is part of the administration's efforts to compete with China's high-tech manufacturing industry. The bipartisan legislation is meant to boost domestic manufacturing of computer chips to ease America's reliance on other countries. The law provides billions of dollars in incentives to the U.S. semiconductor industry to increase production. Before signing the bill into law, Mr. Biden said it will make America a global leader for technological and scientific advancements.
Neuralink is changing what a person is.
Yeah. If you could do that electronically, where you're not juicing yourself up with amphetamines, but instead you're enhancing all the capabilities of your entire neural network.
Yeah.
You know, if you go out and you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID. You go out and you want to buy anything, you need ID and you need your picture.
The company Walletmore is selling microchips as alternative payment options. The chip is about the size of a grain of rice. It costs about $300, and it'll be implanted, Julia, into your hand.
I don't know. I feel kind of creepy about this. I mean, they can track everything we do anyway, right?
Sure, yeah.
All right, well, once you activate it using a digital wallet app, you'll be able to make purchases just by swiping your hand over a card reader. Almost 200 people, they feel pretty confident about it. They've already have the implants. Once the implant goes in, there are no refunds, by the way.
Crazy. Bro, we're going to be robots. We're going to be cyber people.
We can take on the special interest, and our democracy can deliver for the people of this country. That's why I'm confident that decades from now, people will look back at this week with all we've passed and all we've moved on, that we met the moment at this inflection point in history. A moment when we bet on ourselves, believed in ourselves, and recaptured the story, the spirit, and the soul of this nation.
So I have a chip implant in my arm, and I have programmed the chip so that I have my COVID passport and on the chip. And the reason is that I always want to have it accessible. And when I read my chip, I just swipe my phone on the chip, and then I unlock, and it opens up. This is a PDF, which is my COVID passport. And this means that it's always accessible for me, or for anyone else really who wants to read me. For example, if I go to the movies or go to a shopping center, then people will be able to check my status, even if I don't have my phone. A chip implant costs, 100 euros if you want to buy them, the more advanced versions. And you can compare this with, for example, a health wearable that will cost perhaps twice that, but at the same time, a chip implant you can use for 20, 30, 40 years.
In a lot of ways, it's kind of like a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires.
This is his words. It's going to increase your bandwidth to your access to information, and you're going to be able to talk without words.
If they're inserted very carefully, so that the robot actually images the brain and makes sure to avoid any veins or arteries so that the electrodes can be inserted with no noticeable damage. You sort of think like if you stab something with a wire, surely it will bleed, but actually at a really small scale, it does not.
Yeah. If you could do that electronically, where you're not juicing yourself up with amphetamines, but instead you're enhancing all the capabilities of your entire neural network.
Yeah. Crazy.
Bro, we're going to be robots. We're going to be cyber people.
I mean, this is obviously sounding increasingly like a Black Mirror episode. Everything that's encoded in memory, you could upload. You could basically store your memories as a backup and restore the memories. And ultimately, you could potentially download them into a new body or into a robot body. The future is going to be weird.
almost all of the electronics we use rely on microchips. The demand for them jumped during the pandemic, and production disruptions and supply chain issues made it difficult for suppliers to keep up. Chip shortages cost the economy billions. That's right, billions in 2021. Now experts want the government to step in and help American manufacturers make more chips.
They produce about 1 million microchips daily, but the need is so great, they need to put out at least 10 times more than that. How big is this facility?
So this facility is about 420,000 square feet, and that's a give or take about 7 football fields.
Here at Global Foundries in upstate New York, everything looks yellow. Special lighting is used to protect the delicate production of microchips. Engineer Christopher Belfi is equipment manager.
How complex is it to make these microchips? They're in everything we use, phones, TVs, cars.
It is extremely complex, and as the demand on capability increases, so does the complexity.
Chips are needed for just about all devices: laptops, home appliances like refrigerators, gaming consoles, and medical equipment. The chips are the brains of devices. The U.S. produces just around 12% of the world's supply, and we've relied heavily on chips produced in Asia. But when the pandemic hit, it shut down major production plants, decreasing supply.
We don't want to rely on foreign entities to be able to give us the brains and the guts of what drive our everyday vehicles, devices, our cell phones.
There is renewed focus on producing more chips at home, as some experts warn not doing so could also be a national security risk.
When was the last time you wrote an actual check or bought something with cash? Swiping and tapping our cards and our apps are not just the easiest way to spend money, they're the safest way, unless, of course, we misplace our phones or our wallets, and then it's a nightmare. It is hard to misplace your hands, however. And soon your hand may be all that you need to buy anything that you can afford and many things that you can't. Because a company called Walletmore is developing a very teeny tiny chip. You see it there in the X-ray? That should creep you out. The chip is like the ones that are found in smart credit cards or debit cards, and the chip gets embedded just under your skin and makes your whole hand a credit card. Joining me now is Wojtek Perota. He's the CEO and founder of Walletmore. Okay, Wojtek, this is so futuristic and out there, but walk me through how it actually works.
Hey, so first of all, thanks for having me. Let's look at the chip as a super small card that you can use wherever contactless payments are accepted. So it's exactly the same NFC technology, which stands for near field communication, and therefore it can be used only for the near field communication payments. So therefore you cannot be tracked, you cannot be monitored, you cannot be spied with that implant because it's exactly the same technology as credit card.
Wojtek, do you have it in your hand right now?
Yeah, of course. Actually, the X-ray that you saw was for my hand, and that's how it looks on my hand.
So show me your hand. Is it possible to see it at all? It's just barely standing out, right? Like it looks like maybe a little like a scar.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm popping it a little bit.
Oh man, that's crazy. Did you have a doctor insert it?
Yeah, of course, that's part of the deal because we are only building the implants. And when it comes to the installations, we want the whole experience to be as safe as possible. And therefore, we built a network of partners all across Europe and the US. So therefore, if you are ordering an implant from our site, it's of course shipped to you, but then you need to schedule the appointment with one of the specialists who will just set it up for you.
So do you use it? Like, do you go up to a cashier and say, yeah, I'll just tap my hand? And if that's the case, what's the reaction from the sales clerks?
Yeah, of course. I've been testing it myself since the very beginning. I have been the first person to get it installed. And reactions are pretty wild, to be honest. Sometimes people just don't care, but because when they are stuck in the office for like 10 hours, they just do not care. They just care about having the payment to be processed. But sometimes the reactions are really extreme because when I tap my hand and there's clearly nothing here inside of the love or anything else, anywhere else. They are just asking, how the hell is that possible? You need to have a watch somewhere down here in your shirt. But when I'm just taking it down and seeing and showing that, okay, there's nothing out there, then the conversation begins. But in most cases, it turns out to be like a positive conversation, because as long as I explain how it works and what's actually inside, they're pretty much optimistic about it.
"5G, it connects us to everything around the world. A new world teeming with tools, devices, pieces, and parts that work beautifully together, generating cascades of data, shaping what happens next. Models will be disrupted and reimagined, today and years from now. How will you meet this moment head on? We're ready to introduce you to your future self as you bend and shape the amazing possibilities decisively in your favor. It's time to connect new opportunities and capabilities